Welcome to the Inspired Action interview series. I'm Frances from Go Lilies Media, and our guest today is Nikkie Achartz. Let's hear her story. Hi everyone! Today I'm chatting with Nikkie Achartz, CEO of Snap Savvy Strategies. She helps women entrepreneurs make and keep more money, especially the smart pricing way. So let's start with the first question, Nikki. What inspired you to start helping women with pricing and profitability?
So Felina made me. When I started my photography company in
Oh,
2007,
photography.
I did in 2007. I went to your first round of funders, our friends, family, and fools. So I went to my dad and I said, will you help fund my company? And he said, as long as you go and do some market research and you come back and tell me what makes a successful photographer and what makes an unsuccessful photographer. And so I went and I did the research and I came back and I said to him, hey, Dad, there's really talented photographers out there that are broke as a joke. And then there are okay photographers out there that are making money hand over fist. And he said, yeah, what was the difference? And I said, business knowledge. And he said, exactly. So he says, so this is the deal. I'll invest in your company, but for every training you take in photography, you have to take 2 trainings in business.
Mm.
So within 5 years, I had what Felina called a street MBA, a little mini street MBA, because for every photography training I took, and I took a lot, I had to take 2 business trainings. When I joined HeraHub in the end of 2014, Felina sat down with me, and so did Sylvia Ma, the angel investor behind HeraHub, and
Mm-hmm.
said, we don't think you're defensible, because I was doing branding photography and I was about 600% above industry standard at the time, and I was getting it. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, we don't think that branding photography at that 600% above industry standard is going to be defensible in 5 years. And I said, yeah, I get it, video, but people are still going to need stills. And she says, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're saying that as personal portraiture photographers realize that they can't make enough money, they're going to flood branding marketing, which is going to create increased supply on people who know what they're doing, that look enough like what I was doing instead of the mug shots that were currently in that market space, that I wasn't going to be able to charge premium and I would be resulting in a race to the bottom. And so what she
Mm.
said was, we heard you won't photograph a female business owner unless they have a viable business model. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want them pouring $2,000 in marketing money down the drain if they don't have a way to make money. And she's like, talk me through how you determine that they have a viable business model. Then I
Mm.
went through my process and she said, you're a pricing and profitability consultant. And I was like, I'm a what? And she's like, you're a pricing and profitability consultant. And I was like, yet no, I've photographed 500 brands. They'll my base, my market, my loyalists won't move with me there. They don't see me that way. And she's like, well, you're new to HeraHub and I want you to try it. And I resisted her for a year. And then she sat down and interviewed me, wrote my guru thing for me and put it up. And from 2015 to 2020, I ran both companies and ran that kind of on the side. The branding photography was doing fine and I didn't need the consulting, but I really did love it. It stretched my brain. At that point, I had photographed so many people, I could do it at my sleep. I wasn't really challenged anymore.
Mm.
And 2020 hit, and branding photography with COVID collapsed, and the entire business market lost their crap. My pricing and profitability strategies that were trauma informed came to the forefront, and I ended up speaking all over the country on trauma informed adaptations of business so that everybody could sustain themselves through COVID and still make money. And then when we decided to relocate to Colorado, at that point, the pricing and profitability had gone through the roof. The photography was barely there. And so when we relocated to Colorado, I just didn't reopen the second business in another state. And I've been doing pricing and profitability exclusively since 2022. So
Uh,
that's how I ended up
that's,
in it. Yeah.
that's an amazing story, which I didn't know about.
Most people don't know. It's like because Felina told me to, and I just learned long ago not to argue with her.
So, why do you think so many women still undercharge for their work?
There's actually quite a few reasons of what's going on. One is perception of unpaid labor, because historically we do so much work in our
Mm-hmm.
homes and in our lives that is unpaid, that when we go to think about all the emails and the thinking and the driving and the doing this and the doing that. We don't price that into our offerings because we have been conditioned that all of that work that we do behind the scenes is not worthy of being compensated. So there is a paradigm of unpaid labor. There is a trauma response, a stressor response. Masculine does fight, flight, and freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Feminine does tend, befriend, and fold. And
Mm.
so we go in often giving a discount before it's even asked for, just because
Yeah.
we are trying to tend to
Mm-hmm.
them and befriend these people. Because if we tend them and we befriend them, then they're less threatening to us, then we're not stressed. So it's really a stressor response that we're just trying to regulate our own nervous systems. And that really stems from the fact that in our culture, when a woman says no, then she is instantly at risk. Because when we say no to things, interpersonal relationships, oftentimes 1 in 3 women's objections are overridden, and that's actually assault. So for us, going in with that perception is very, very difficult. So we go in feeling slightly threatened to begin with, which is why we immediately kick into the stressor responses and start underbidding and undercharging. And then the other thing is that culturally speaking, again, stemming from that, is we're told that we don't take things from strangers because we don't know what they
Ah,
want from us.
yeah. Okay.
Right? It's a threatening environment. And we're told, like, oh my gosh, why would you do that with a friend or a family? You shouldn't bill for that. That's just the cost of community. That's community supporting each other. And so if we're not allowed to take money from strangers and we're not allowed to take money from friends, people like me who's an extrovert that goes from stranger to friend in about 60 seconds, I have about 60 seconds to make money, culturally speaking, in our world. And personally speaking, I just think that's BS. That's a lot of where it is coming from, is those main foundational cultural and mindset issues.
So to connect with the mindset issue, like what kind of mindset shift that helps women make and keep more of their money?
So part of it is to reject a lot of this. And so a lot of what we do, because I'm not a mindset coach, and because I do think hacking very deeply ingrained protective instincts
Mm-hmm.
is difficult to do, and I need to make an impact sooner rather than later,
Mm-hmm.
because we're undercharging. So I try to make it a math problem. It is simply, how long is it going to take you to serve this client?
Mm-hmm.
In this way, accounting for every minute of the perceived unpaid labor is documented. And then I simply run, what does it take to run your household and your business? Because your business is separate from your personal household,
Yeah.
and save enough money for in case things go sideways, and in saving money for when I want to grow and not take a pay cut. And I also build in profit.
Mm-hmm.
We spit out a number that says, here's how much you have to make. And what I do that with is as if a partner is not there. Sole financial responsibility is on that female founder. When we can get that actual math problem and
Mm-hmm.
we end up multiplying that by the number of hours it takes for them to service the client, I
Mm-hmm.
look at them and I go, this isn't a mindset. This is a math problem. It's not mindset, it's math. And
Logic.
so I look at them and I go, that's it. It's math. So whatever your mindset is, like, we need to get over it because the math is not lying and the math is telling you this is what you have to charge. Now let's figure out a way to help you charge it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is really working with getting a sales process and offerings developed in a way that doesn't feel threatening, so that the way that we move our prospects and our clients through a sales process
Mm-hmm.
does not feel predatory. So our own nervous systems aren't getting triggered. And therefore, by definition and by extension, we won't be triggering the nervous systems of our prospects, because we frequently go, I hated that when that happened to me, and I don't want to do
Yeah.
it to someone else. And so we immediately go in undercutting to appear less threatening. So
Mm-hmm.
if we just build systems that feel in alignment with us,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're an extrovert or an introvert or this or that, if we can map that way, then women are going to feel more comfortable charging what they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
It really only takes one time. I have had clients that have been, just hold your breath, say the number, and shut up. Like, don't say a word and let them work it out. And when somebody comes back and goes, okay, they're like, shut up, really? I'm like, wait, you didn't say that, right? And they're like, no, but it went through my head. Shut up, really? You're going to pay me that? And it really only takes that one time for them to see their value. And after that, it's much, much easier for them to ask for the value that they're worth.
So, what part of your work lights you up the most?
If I could teach 24/7, I would, because I get completely high. The dopamine receptors go completely off when I watch the light bulb go on and they go, "Oh," and you're like, "Yeah." And they go, "Oh." And I go, "Exactly." And they're like, "I can do this." And I was like, "Of course you can." You know? So it's the light bulb moments that light me up, literally. And it's that not only can I do this, or oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, but also that incredible moment when they get paid and they don't resent it and they don't feel like crap and they're like, oh my gosh, I made money and there's like extra in the bank. And it's just, they carry themselves differently. And it
Mhm.
was something that I noticed when I photographed, even though most of the time I never photographed a woman's feet.
Mm.
I would have her wear high heels or boots or whatever it was that made them extra sassy and confident because it came through in the pictures, even though you didn't see that they were wearing the heels or wearing the boots. It was like you could just feel it in
Mhm.
them. And that's that sensation they get when they finally get paid and it goes well. And they're like, I can do this. And it's like they sit a little taller and they walk in with a little bit more arrogance. And man, that is just the high of all highs.
I love those reactions when you
Me
see
too.
them. Clients, yeah. So, what types of clients or projects do you like or enjoy working with the most?
I actually have three types of clients I like to work with the most. The third one I get the least of because it's more situational, but I love early stagers who are like,
Mm.
I want to do a business. I've been charging, but I actually want to make more than $50,000. And
Mhm.
what it comes down to is that literally 80.6% of female business owners never make more than $50,000 a year.
80%?
80.6%.
Wow.
And only about 12% ever break 100,000.
Wow. I didn't
That
know it was that rare.
it's that rare. And part of it is they're lacking education and support from somebody who knows that the systems work in a way that aligns with them instead of them trying to be a man or trying to do it through bro
Mhm.
marketing or click funnels or they get shit on left, right, and sideways. When you can get them to understand and integrate it into their own thing and stop being infopreneurs where they just
Yeah.
take in a bunch of information but never align it.
Apply
And
it.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, never action it makes a big difference. So I love that beginning stage. The other one I love is right at scale when that female founder reaches that ceiling and she realizes she's the choke point. Like she can't grow anymore because she doesn't have the bandwidth to
Mm-hmm.
service the client and do business development and be a bookkeeper and do operations and do marketing. And
All
they
the
and they
hats.
go, I can't, like I've reached the threshold of my knowledge and I'm hitting a ceiling and I can't punch through. And it kills me because a lot of other business coaches out there are, well, just grow or just do this or just do that. And they end up actually bankrupting the female founder because they don't teach them how to scale in a manageable and sustainable way that
Mm-hmm.
protects their revenue and manages their risk tolerance so that they can grow at a pace that works for them. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that because in the early stagers, we're starting foundation and building up. So it's fun to get in on the ground floor. But
Mm-hmm.
at that level, I'm more like Sherlock Holmes. Actually, I need to be a woman, Nancy Drew, where I'm trying to like figure out what's going, and I can't go in and just start slashing and burning and changing things because this company has existed for a while. That's how they've
Yeah.
made it this far. So I can't just go in and start disrupting the systems. I have to go in and do little levers and step back and go, everything okay? Everything okay? Okay, we're good. And then we go back in again. And so that's really, really fun for me because it busts my brain. Like I really have to work hard to be gentle with what the adjustments that I'm making. The final one is the sustaining level businesses where everything was going fine and then all of a sudden it's not going fine.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working with quite a few marketing agencies that have gotten knocked around by AI.
Mm.
And they're like, wait, all of this was working and now it's not working anymore. And people that were really part of the boom during COVID and after COVID, particularly in like the bookkeeping space and things like that,
Mm.
that now AI encroachment and recession and a downturning economy is putting pressure on them. And the old ways of them doing things are breaking down. So
Mm.
they're like, okay, now I don't know what to do because this has always worked and now it's not working. What do I do? And it's fun to step in and be like, okay, we're not going to redo the whole thing. We're not going to quit. We're just going to tweak a little and see if we can't get like generating again. But no matter who I'm working with, it's the psychology of making sure that this is manageable and sustainable for them. Because if it's not, then I'm useless and I created no impact whatsoever. So those are the people I like to work with.
Awesome. In terms of impact, what does inspired action mean to you?
So it's basically, I wanted to come on this so much because I love the notion of inspired action, right? Because you can be bullied into taking action, but if it's not inspired and in alignment, then when things get rough and bumpy, you quit. You quit on
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you quit on the new system, you quit on the new target market, you quit because in the end, it wasn't coming from an inspired space to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love is it's action. So, yes, I'm inspired, but
Mm-hmm.
now that inspiration has to lead to action, and that action can be uncomfortable. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have to lean into discomfort because the spaces of growth don't happen where everything's comfortable. It
Yeah.
happens where it's uncomfortable. But there's a difference between leaning into discomfort and being
Mm-hmm.
completely out of alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love inspired action because I am in alignment, I am inspired, but I am also taking that inspiration and actioning it into my life and into my business. So I was really excited to come on.
And glad you're actually here. So, if someone wants to work with you, what is the best first step?
Well, there's two options. One being a member of Hera Hub. Part of the fact that Hera Hub is a benefit corporation is we do give back to the community. And so I do offer 45-minute guru sessions, completely free and open to the public, where we can try to figure out really what's going on because it may not be what you think it is. If I can't be the one to help you, I will net weave you to someone who can help you. If I can help you, how best I can help you can be done in that guru hours. The other thing is, I love that model so much that I've replicated it in my own business and I have an initial strategy session that is also a 45-minute. It's just that I've tried to cut it down, but in the end, profitability and pricing is such a complex
Yeah.
set of issues that when I rush it, I'm not regulating my own nervous system, let alone the female founder's nervous systems. 45 minutes is the best way to contact me and figure out. Now, on my website, we have a lot of
Yeah.
resources. We teach a lot. Like I said, I love to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So on there, there's an events page that has everything we've recorded in the past. Well, not everything, recently in the last 18 months, because we update our content again.
Mm-hmm.
Set it and forget it. It's not real in the world.
Yeah.
And so we don't tend to like any of our content to be older than 12 to 18 months old because it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be adjusted. And there also is a bunch of blog articles and worksheets that you can get and things like that. So if you are a do-it-yourselfer, do that. But I do normally say that most of the time, your nervous systems, if you just land on that page and you don't really know what you need, you're just going to get in there and get overwhelmed and not sure where to start. So I still do recommend having a 45-minute conversation with me. And that way I can direct you to the resources that I think would make the most sense.
Okay. Last question for today. Any advice you would give women who are ready to level up in their business?
Cautious optimism. So honestly, inspired action. When you are ready, then you are ready. Though my parents had a saying, they said to me, be careful who you set up as your leaders. You may not want to follow them. So what I would say is that oftentimes there's a lot of people who will offer you all the different ways they think that you could take the next step without bothering to stop and really investigate what's going on. So for example, jumping into investing $2,000 a month into LinkedIn marketing. When you yourself do not have a dialed in sales process and you know what you're offering and how much you're going to charge, then all of that just splashes back out again. And so you've invested a lot of money to get leads that actually don't convert into cash. When you are going to make a decision, really talk to somebody that is going to evaluate where you are and what your next safe step is versus trying to do a big leap in. Yeah. So just be careful who you set up as your leaders. You may not want to follow them.
Nikkie, thank you so much for sharing your insight. They've all been so valuable. I'll add her links if you want to learn more about what she does and how she can help you. So everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next Inspired Action interview. Bye-bye.